hopefully they can get something situated here, but I will call tonight's meeting to order of the select board. It is Tuesday, February 17th. It is 6:02 p.m. We are on Zoom, being live streamed as well as recorded for future YouTube posting. We are a 5-member board. We have 1 member on Zoom to start. He's on his way in. We'll be here in person in a little bit. And before we get into the agenda, if we could please stand for the pledge.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jen, he's working on it, but he's looking for outside help. So.
Okay, no worries. Thank you, Mike. All right, we have warrants and minutes to approve. So we've got approval of Treasury warrant 26-17 and 26-PW17. I was looking through the warrant. The one thing that stood out was the Q3 assessment for Bay Path is in this warrant. I don't believe there's anything else ordinary to note. Right, Heather?
No.
There's questions, or I'll entertain a motion to approve Treasury warrant 26-17 and 26-PW17.
Motion to approve Treasury warrant 2617 and 26 PW 17.
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any discussion? All right, roll call. Harry?
Second aye.
Whitman?
Matt's and aye.
Alex?
Vote aye.
And Ledger I. Thank you. We have a couple sets of meeting minutes. We have the executive session from January 29th, and then we have 2 budget meetings, 2 budget hearing meetings, as well as a regular meeting. I think if we, for the January 29th executive session, that's ongoing legal, so we should consider approval, but not to release at this time. And then we can probably, if there's no concern, we can probably approve the remaining 3 as a slate to be posted. Any questions or discussion? I'll entertain a motion to approve but not release the January 29th, 2026 executive session minutes, and approve the January 29th, February 2nd, and February 5th budget and regular meeting minutes as presented.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All right, roll call. Harry?
Second aye.
Whitman?
Matt's and aye.
Alex?
Vote aye.
And Ledger I. I should probably add, everybody was present at all of those meetings, so. I will open, is there anybody here for public comment this evening? Name and address, please.
Mike Tavarakis, Stevens Way. I just want to make a couple of comments. I've been following the budget, as you know, constantly. I do follow the budget. One thing, I will say one thing, a question I do have before the budget is I was hoping to see a town planner soon. I've been trying to follow that. I don't know where we are. And that's just something I'm putting forward to you. If you want to answer the question, that's fine. If not, that's okay. But I think since John left, I think the importance of replacing that with an experienced person, with the little knowledge I've learned on the planning board is important. But getting to the budget itself, I've been trying to follow it, and I'm a little disturbed on a couple of things. We're not a Melrose and we're not a Stoneham, and I hear that brought up. I used to have a route up in the North Shore, and I can tell you that those are very wealthy towns, and they have the money that we don't have. But locally, if we look around us, and you can follow the MMA, we also know the governor has not funded MMA question, a 26% increase. It didn't even come close. Everything's shot, and we understand that, and I understand your position and how tough it is for you to make those decisions. Services are important, but when you look at the people in the surrounding this town, look at locally. Oxford, who is very high on commercial business. Oxford with a Market Basket, McDonald's, Walmart, couldn't even pass 2-to-1 failure on police officers, 250,000. 400,000 for the schools failed. Paxton has constantly gone on 3 failed overrides, and they only passed 500,000 by 52 votes. Barry, our nearest neighbor to us, tried to pass a 500,000, failed, 84% no. It is tough, and I understand that, but look at the population of this town, and I heard a statement that disturbed me. It said, somebody made it in the budget, and I'm not one to point fingers at people, I don't think it's fair. But they said 74% of this town is under 60. That's where the override vote is. Well, under 60 does not mean you're making $200,000 a year. Out of that 74%, I think about 15 to 20% are on the lower end of incomes. We got a senior population approaching 25%, 5% commercial business in town. Where is the empathy for those people? The people that are disabled, fixed incomes, or maybe single parents struggling to pay for a home. It is tough. It is tough for everybody. I ran into a person recently in town who said to me, he said, Mike, I understand the services and the importance. We need them. But my mortgage just went up several $100s for taxes by the value. MMA clearly says, with the property values rising so fast, incomes are not, overrides are becoming non-feasible. People can't afford them. They want the service but can't afford them. He says, my mortgage is up, my utilities are up, food. I've been living here for 25, 30 years. I can't afford it. What am I gonna do? Where am I gonna go? Where's my help? There is some help we know here, 41C. You have the power to increase that. We're at 40,700. Some towns are 30, some towns are 50. That's a board decision for that $1,000 credit. Some empathy and help. Let's work with these people. Let's research more. Many towns out there are coming up with tough decisions what to do, whether it's privatized services, shared services. Those are things, your decisions, not my decisions. I'm just pointing out some facts. Let's help everybody. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but let's help everybody. It's not easy. And people, there's one other thing. Trust factor has gone down. A couple of years ago, when we had an override, there was a finance committee member who said, pass a $2 million override. It'll last 3 or 4 years, 2, 3 years. 9 months it was gone. This past November, we spent a lot of the money that we had in extra revenue. Again, people see those things. The biggest problem, and you can't educate, you can educate somebody that has the extra cash, but if somebody can't afford, you can't educate them. You can't help somebody who has $1 left to spend on a budget and tell them they have to pay $5. It isn't gonna work. You're not gonna sell that. So it's just some points I wanna point out as you're discussing the budget, as you're going forward, just to help you. Thank you.
Is there anybody else for public comment? Okay. If the board is agreeable, since we have Conservation Commission here, can we move to that item under the new business, the joint discussion? They have another posted meeting, so we want to get them to be able to continue their business, if that's agreeable. Alright, did you want to open?
Yes, a quorum present, I'm gonna call the February 17th meeting of the Conservation Commission to order, all of us being present except for our member Glenda. Yeah, so
We are here to jointly talk about a couple of topics. I don't know how you feel, if maybe taking the floodplain bylaw first, is that agreeable? Yeah, it's probably a little bit pretty straightforward. I will actually, if I may, Heather, turn it over to you for some intros and details.
It was brought to my attention from the representative at the at DCR that the town of Rutland had fallen off the compliance. The towns that are non-compliant with the National Floodplain Insurance Program. There were several communities that failed to approve a floodplain bylaw before the July 8th, 2025 deadline, when all of the new FEMA floodplain maps were adopted and put into use. As a result of that, there are a number of property owners that are whether we agree or disagree that the FEMA maps are accurate or truly represent the flood potential. There are properties that are located within the new FEMA maps. As a result of that, they are not able to renew their flood insurance. That is a requirement of their mortgage. So it does create some concerns. There's about $1.12 million worth of property that this would impact. So to that end, I know that the floodplain bylaw was brought up originally by your town planner. Unfortunately, due to the inconsistency in that office, the issue never got brought forward to town meeting. We'd like to amend that or to remedy that, and I think that my conversations with the Conservation Commission have been that they would be amenable to bringing that forward to your May town meeting. DCR has reached out and has provided some model bylaw language. It's pretty straightforward. I think that just some general oversight from Rutland's town officials would be necessary to make sure that it's, you know, suitable for the community and its population, and we'll be, so is that a pretty broad overview?
And so, you know, just an overview of this floodplain bylaw. So, like Heather mentioned, it's required to be part of the National Flood Insurance Program. So if you have a federally backed mortgage or if you got a VA loan for your mortgage and you're in a flood hazard area, you're required to get flood insurance. Being part of the flood insurance program is a much more cost-effective option instead of going private insurance, and private insurance doesn't guarantee you coverage either. So the loss, you know, even if it's regardless of the number of people it may affect, it's still, you know, a number of people that now are incompliant with their mortgage. So this is important. I hate to say it's not really a burdensome on the town. There is a staff aspect, but typically what this bylaw does is because the FEMA regulations are more strict than our state standards, which is usually the opposite of what we see. Our state is usually more compliant. Every town needs to adopt this bylaw. The bylaw in itself is pretty consistent with what we already regulate under the Wetlands Protection Act. So it's making sure there's no net loss of flood storage area. You know, we are lucky in that we have so much DCR watershed protection area, so that's not affecting more people, which I think would be the case in a lot more communities. So in that sense, you know, we're lucky that it's limited the amount of people that the loss of being in this program has affected, but it still is affecting these people, their ability to be compliant with their mortgage. So reviewing the bylaw that John had put together, it's pretty much already there. So I don't think there would be any trouble getting it on for the May town meeting. It's just, working out what you have to have designated staff people, you know, to report if there are changes to floodplain areas, which Conservation Commission would know about since you'd have to get it permitted through us anyways. So it's just.
Do you know, we have the existing policies now with the new flood maps. Are there any expected new homes or potential lots that would be impacted that would require this insurance?
I have to look at the changes. If anything, I think we would have found out. I know we'd gotten that one letter from a homeowner because their mortgage had reached out and said, hey, you need flood insurance. Thankfully, their map amendment carried through with the new maps, so they were safe. But any person who would have been affected, their mortgage would have contacted them by now.
Okay.
I have a question. Is this the same one? I think this was before planning board for a while, and planning board had a lot of significant concerns about what it was going to do as far as ability for insurance or the rates of those impacted. I believe and that was part of the conversation through planning board, and they were very much against it because of those concerns to the homeowners. So I think that that's part of the reason that it had kind of fallen, but if I'm understanding correctly, we are essentially required to do this, and we've had now homeowners that need to have it in order to be compliant.
I'd say you don't technically you don't have to, but you're leaving those residents at risk for loss of coverage for their mortgage and loss of flood insurance. So this is actually a more cost-effective option for them because it's part of the national program than going private.
Thank you.
Question to the chair? So if we approve a new FEMA compliant, then homes can be built in floodplains.
No,
They can't.
they already can't unless
Okay.
you do compensatory storage and all
Okay.
that.
So the ones that are there now are legitimate. If we approve it, it doesn't say you gotta move your house or you
Correct,
can't
yes,
do it or anything
Yep.
like that.
Just like any new bylaw, once it's enacted, it's moving forward, it's never retroactive.
Okay, well, I'm concerned about the federal in
Yeah.
terms of what,
Nope, it's still, it's still moving forward.
okay. All right, what if, so I'm not familiar with flood insurance, cause I don't need it.
Yeah.
So somebody that has some flood insurance, so you're in a floodplain, you're required to get flood insurance to have the mortgage,
Correct.
and therefore the house, if it's flooded, is taken care of by the insurance guaranteed? There's no ifs, ands, or buts there.
As
'Cause if we
well-
approve this, that's what I'm worried about.
So the specifics on what insurance will cover, I'm not as familiar with. I know they get finicky and what, is considered a flood. So that definition is, very contrite. But yeah, essentially if they are impacted by flood, if the Ware River overflowed and filled a house next door, then, and they have flood insurance, then it would be covered.
Cause we never know when we're gonna get that 1,000-year floodplain.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Alex, any questions for you?
I'm good, thanks.
So this would be, like you said, the bylaw, we pretty much have a draft, so you would be
Yeah.
just reviewing that, and then I think Heather, we had talked about this would still need to go to the bylaw committee because it's a general bylaw, and then it would go on the warrant for a town meeting for a vote there for approval, correct?
Ideally, yes.
So for tonight, we're really just looking to acknowledge Concom's willingness to take on the review and the drafting of the bylaw to bring it forward, and just making sure that everybody with the board is comfortable with that action. Recommending that they
I
take
don't
on
know we have a
that.
choice, honestly, if we wanna take care of our citizens.
Yeah.
You know? Okay,
Tamika, do you want an actual motion, or are we,
No, I don't think that's necessary
Alright,
unless the board
as long
wants
as the
to.
board's, comfortable with continuing the path, it's, okay, excellent. All right, so topic number 2 is the forestry management. I'm again going to turn it over to Heather, who I know has some more experience in this, just with kind of explaining forest management plan, what we're looking to talk about tonight, and what we're looking to accomplish, what we need from the board to be able to ask questions if I could.
So several meetings ago, this group talked a little bit about some of the town-owned parcels that are currently undeveloped, and how to proceed with either a cutting plan or forestry management, and the board had asked that I look into that a little bit more. Once again, reaching out to individuals at the state level to learn how other communities manage this. And I think that one of the recommendations that I would like the board to consider is a forestry management plan that would start with the identification of all of the town-owned parcels that are currently undeveloped, open space, and determine which of those parcels are well suited for a forestry management oversight, which parcels might be more appropriate for to look at through the lens of economic development, and create that sort of master list. I think your open space and recreation plan that you've just completed has already done quite a bit of the work towards this, but not necessarily with that forestry management lens. And then once, and there are some grant funds that might be available through MVP to assist with this work, because it is, once you get into that, it becomes quite technical. It isn't just sort of identifying that this parcel has a lot of great trees and what do we do with it next. And so that would be my recommendation, is that the select board consider assigning a forestry management plan. It's something that would be more technical than what I could take on, but I would certainly be willing to support another board or committee, and certainly work with that board or committee to establish MVP funds that could supplement their work, because it would be a big lift for our volunteers. So that's my, and I kind of would defer again to Melissa on some of the more technical aspects of what the advantages maybe to a forestry management plan might be, as opposed to a determination parcel by parcel towards a more short-term cutting
Yeah, just to talk about, forest management versus, individual parcels. I think, kind of what we do for both the master plan, the open space and rec plan, looking at the town holistically is always good, looking at it cohesively. You might look at lots individually one by one, and maybe something doesn't make sense, but when you look at the bigger picture, maybe you realize, you can, even if the lots aren't directly next to each other, they might provide some benefit, in tandem. And by having a more cohesive plan, town-wide, I think again, it helps to identify specific areas within town that might be better suited for open space or development. And it also opens you up a little bit more to different types of grants. If you show that you have these, goals in this plan forward, that it's something you've prioritized, whether it's in certain areas or certain lots, and you can make it as general or specific within that plan to those individual lots. So you can still break it down, if you have, whether it's a 100-acre parcel and you want to carve that one out specifically within the forest management plan because it's very specific, maybe it has already trails that are existing, or its management style would be slightly different. So you still have that ability, you're not in one specific format, stuck within that, area of saying, oh, we can only, look at this and have only forest management. Okay, well, we're looking at this exactly like Heather said, what is the best path forward for Rutland and those individual parcels? Because as hard as it may be for us to admit it, there aren't going to be great parcels for open space, and that's good to hash out, and kind of a more overarching plan that looks at everything, and then that way you get input from the various, whether it's boards, departments, rec, and things like that. What are their needs, and they all. Master plan, open space, as forest management, it all comes together, and it goes a long way in reaching the goals that we've set for ourselves as a town.
So it would be my recommendation that the natural fit for this would be to, and I know that Concom just volunteered to step up on floodplain, so understanding that this may not be this is something for discussion purposes, but because of the nature of the forest management plan, I think that it is statutorily best suited for Concom. The MGL is clear that it is a select board jurisdiction, but that within that language, it states that the designation, that the most common designation of that work is to Concom. It's pretty clear in the MGLs, because of the work that they're already doing with land management and land conservation. So if they're amenable to at least begin the work and to work with me towards establishing what those, maybe a small working group where we start looking at the open space plan and see what work we can do to get started, and perhaps even put together a grant application for the MVP program or another, suitable program that would give them the technical consultant support that they might want.
Making sure I'm understanding everything, we would be looking to have Conservation Commission look at creating this forestry framework, this plan, looking at, like you said, holistically, all the town-owned parcels and anything that's not suitable, that's still town-owned property, we'll have that available for any further, whatever the town decides they'd like to do with those parcels, whether it's if there's economic development opportunities there, anything that can be done, if they should be considered for sale, whatever it may be, but it sounds like we should be starting with the forest management plan, reviewing all of these parcels to determine which ones.
Right, absolutely.
Is that-
Not all parcels, I think, would be suitable for consideration under the forestry management plan, but to Melissa's point, if we don't look at them all,
Right.
then, and with that larger townwide view,
Right.
I think we're sort of, getting ahead of ourselves sooner than we need to
The
be.
cart before the horse.
Yeah, and just to be clear, when I'm throwing out the MGL, it is MGL 40, Section 8C, that gives the select board the authority to make this designation. And I guess I would ask you to consider the motion that the Conservation Commission be the town's lead entity for conservation-focused forest management of town-owned lands, and to authorize the commission to work with a DCR service forester as necessary, and then to develop a scope with what they might need for additional services, so that we could then look at, again, this isn't something that we'll be able to fund through our regular general budget. This is something that we would want some grant support for, so.
No, I just wanted to follow up with kind of how having an entity kind of look at everything cohesively, I think is huge, and I think that that's something that has come out a lot in master plan and open space, to kind of reiterate what Melissa said, but so much of what even development wise has been so piecemeal, and so rather than having super concentrated development and then maintaining larger open spaces, it's kind of segmented all over the place, so there's not clear cohesive opportunity for economic development or development, housing development or open space. So I think taking this piece where still available and providing an entity to look at everything in complete totality makes sense, and is kind of the driver of what has fallen out from master plan and previous master plans also that just have sat on the shelf, as well as open space and everything as well.
And the select board still would retain jurisdiction over any decisions associated with it. It's really just Concom's doing the evaluation and the review and coming up with the plan and the options for consideration, correct?
They would be the ones who would be, they have the background
Yep.
and that technical knowledge to be able to assess the parcels and make those determinations, or at least, you know, get the framework started for that. But yeah, ultimately, they would bring that back to you, and then ultimately to town meeting. You know, there's no disposition of property without town meeting, so, you know, it's just, we need somebody to take the lead of the larger ask.
The larger ask. Any questions from the board?
I guess I'm a bit confused, Heather. Are we giving responsibility to Concom for this forestry management under section 21 or under section 8C?
Well, both statutes speak to the designation to conservation.
I know, but on section 21, if I might, it only, first off, it only refers to a town forest. So question one, I'd like to know where our town forest is. Because it specifically references town forest in many places on this document. That's the purview that Concom has.
Well, that's under that statute. The other statute is all open space parcels. That the select board has the authority to designate that to conservation.
So parcels that are now being kind of overseen by RIDC are all open space parcels?
I don't think that.
So I'm trying to grasp here, if we're gonna assign them some legality of stuff, I'm trying to make sure that I understand when I vote for that.
They're not taking ownership or you know, they are simply going to make
For properties under the authority of the select board.
right. So
Section
if-
21 does not apply here.
No,
'Cause that only
Not
deals with-
necessarily,
does.
no, it does.
Okay, because that only deals
So-
with the town forest.
My understanding though is RDIC owns their parcels, or like they have care and control of those parcels. So we're just talking about parcels under the care and control of the select board.
So all the 61As and all the stuff they're working on now, you don't have purview over?
It's what you're giving us purview for.
I don't know that they have any purview over any 61A
No.
property. Yeah.
This is just town-owned properties that are not, like,
So the Rutland Heights property would be
Right.
excluded because the RDIC has
That's under
care and control
Right,
of the
right.
Rutland Heights property.
This would not include the Rutland Heights parcel because that's clearly not under the select board's authority to designate.
So if we're not talking about town forest, which I would love to see one, but I have not found it in my 40-some years of being here. So if we have one, I'd like to know. So that eliminates 21, because there were references made to this Mass General Law, so I wanted to look it up. And so that leaves it as Conservation Commission establishment powers and duties. I guess you'll have to point out to me, or somebody will, where forestry management sets under Conservation Commission powers and duties. Because, again, I've read it and I haven't seen it there, so is it assumed?
That's what you're designating them to do.
So the Conservation Commission was originally created under the Conservation Commission Act. To basically preserve and conserve. You know, the Wetlands Protection Act, the permitting came later. So the first powers of the commission was to do things such as this.
Excuse
me, excuse me. So if you get assigned to do this, you will work with other committees and boards of their appropriateness, like the RDIC that says, well, we want to develop this property and we'd like to do this. So will you work with them, or you will say at some point, no, you can't do that? Because I'm trying to figure out how you're going to coordinate this,
So
and I don't know yet,
we are
so.
just making recommendations to the select board.
Yeah. If I may, they would not have any ability that the land and parcels that are under the select board's purview will remain under the select board's purview. You're just designating the Conservation Commission to create a forestry management plan that would then come back to the select board and perhaps to town meeting for adoption. This is not, you're not giving them control over any parcels. They would not have any authority to develop or dispose or
So you're,
even so much as hire.
you're giving us the authority to make recommendations.
Okay? I don't mean to drag this out, but what does a forestry management plan mean?
Sure, so it's,
Go ahead,
are you asking someone else?
I'm asking you.
Okay, so forest management plan can look at like a lot of things. It can talk about climate resiliency, it could talk about forest health, most importantly. So, you know, there are forest cutting plans, which is a 7-year plan, which is mostly for timber harvesting. What we're talking about is more of a holistic forest management plan, which is these forested properties, you know, and looking at them both holistically and individually to determine what the best course of action would be. Whether it's thinning and harvesting some timber, it's also looking at wildfires, if there are areas that are more susceptible to wildfires and what we need to do for that. If there's nothing that we should be doing, if it's not, you know, a good area that we should be managing, maybe it should be developed. That's what we're talking about. How are we managing the forest?
It says natural resources, so I'm assuming that takes into water and all that other stuff in there. And little creatures that are on there, all that stuff comes under your purview?
A little bit, but this is more just about the forestry. So our purview as a commission, yes, but in this forest management plan, we're talking about the forest health, which yes is habitat, but that comes with the health of the trees, health
Okay.
of, you know, the shrubs and vegetation that are there, and how they survive.
Randy?
They don't have a quorum to.
No, I didn't know if you want to speak as an individual.
I would like to hear
Just
the
the board?
board's comments first. Leah, I know you.
No,
Okay.
I just was gonna point out that per MGL Chapter 40, Section 8C, which empowers Concom to protect natural resources, develop conservation plans, and manage municipal open space, making it the town's primary conservation focused authority. I think it's through a conservation lens, but to your point, it's saying this parcel or this area is nice, but really there's other priorities. We as a commission or as a town should have other priorities for conservation or open space or whatever. So I think it's that holistic piece, but I just wanted to point out that it's rooted, I believe, the total authority is Chapter 40, Section 8C, and then town forest specifically, which we don't currently have any designated town forest that I know of. Harry, to your point, is the Chapter 45, Section 21, so it's all encompassing.
Chapter 45?
That's
Or
what
40?
I have here in my notes, 45,
21, yes.
21.
Right. That's right, that's
For
that's the town, city and town forest management?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it, okay. Okay, I guess, I mean, I think we've needed forest management for a long time in terms of taking care of wildfires and all that stuff, certainly to make it easier on our public service people. I guess I'm a little, I still can't wrap my head around why don't, how we can coordinate. And I come back to RDIC that's been working with property and say they wanna cut down some timber in order to make it feasible for somebody who wants to buy a piece of property.
So you can't do that under forest cutting.
What's that?
You can't do that under a forest cutting plan.
I think that's
That's
separate.
my
That's
point.
separate.
But I
So-
think that's a separate piece, Harry.
So
The
that's-
first part is to
yes.
start at the
Right.
plan level to figure out which parcels would not fall under this purview of this forest management plan. And if there's a list of properties that don't,
Step one
Qualifying.
would be identifying an inventory of lands that we would be assessing. And that would be come back to the board for you to okay or not.
right, and if there's some that are not okay for this purpose and would be more beneficial for tree cutting, redevelopment of something and working with the RDIC in that case, that's kind of the second step is my understanding of, we need to figure out at this higher level, do this evaluation. And then, once we get that list for review and the Concom's recommendation of those properties, then there's consideration for what happens with individual parcels that are not applicable to this
How long
forest
is this
management plan.
project? 7, 10 years? 5 years, 2 years?
Oh, the plan?
Forest
make the
management
plan?
plan.
To make it, or how long is it good for?
No, how long is it gonna take you to do it?
I'm not sure.
Huh?
I'm not sure.
I mean, years, months, weeks?
Probably more than a year, yes.
I think that's part of what they would be tasked with, is coming up with a plan and determining timelines for,
That would be part of the scope.
Right.
The scope and budget, which again, we would use to develop into potentially a grant application
Right.
to provide them support so that the work doesn't take 5 years.
Right.
With a group of volunteers, we'd like to be able to get some professional support to make it a little less onerous.
does the,
I guess I just have one more question. I've asked questions that I think are pertinent to me that help me understand. But are there questions I didn't ask that you can tell me in terms of helping me better understand? In other words, what can you tell me about this forestry plan that I haven't asked you or thought about? What are the pros, what are the cons of it? What's the bad side?
I think I've went over the pros.
What's that?
I think I've went over the pros. I've gone over all the pros of the plan.
Oh. But, so there are no cons in this? I mean, there is
It's
no bad,
non-binding,
there is no bad things in this, correct?
correct?
Okay.
so what it comes down to is them creating a plan and bringing it to the board for consideration. There's nothing that has to be acted on without the board's approval to move forward.
I guess when you use the word holistic, I think about, is that against the interests of the town? We wanna make this town grow, we wanna have good things, but if it's gonna be holistic, how's that gonna help the town?
Then you stop it.
Or we don't approve it?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like I said, there's no cons. You don't like what we put forward, you're one vote.
Okay, that's why I asked how long it was gonna take to do it. Okay,
And I think if I may, I think when I think of holistic in this sense, it's holistic in looking at everything in its entirety and not holistic as a alternate
Yes.
conservation driven mode. It's kind of looking at things in the whole entirety versus
Piecemeal.
If there's one thing that as somebody who's brand new to your community, the one thing that I have identified that we really need to focus on is the economic development component. This is, I am optimistic that through this process, we do identify parcels that are, that have been undervalued or that we just haven't paid enough attention to from that perspective, and that is, I think, a primary goal of mine is to use this to parcel out properties that would be ideal for those considerations. I mean, this is a great opportunity for forest health and to look at habitat and all of the other wonderful things that come from that, but it really is also as much about determining which parcels are not appropriate for that use.
Absolutely.
So that's a goal of your town administrator, trying to look at how we support the community holistically.
And one other thing I think we hear a lot from a lot of people within this room on a lot of different boards and commissions as well as a lot of residents is that land is finite, right? And so we're not able to make more land. And so I think by empowering one group to look at everything in its entirety is carving out the land that is worth holding on to and trying to preserve as whether it's open space or total conservation or whatever, and then saying these parcels make sense to develop, but we know we're not able to make more land, and there's certain parcels that are going to be developed regardless because they're privately owned or whatever. And so I think in trying to fit with the comments that we as a board as well as individuals have heard from a lot of community members as well as a lot of individuals in this room, that land is finite. I think that this is a way to ensure that we're being intentional about what we are moving forward with to develop.
I guess as long as it doesn't impact the ability of RDIC to develop the land,
It does not.
then, okay. I'm hearing it right here from you. It will not, okay.
Alex or Paul, any questions or?
No, I think it's just, it sounds like it just takes a lot of time to work through this, and I think we have people who are volunteering their time to do that, so we take advantage of when people have time to do that. We obviously can't afford to pay somebody to come up with that sort of plan or look at these things, so having somebody to volunteer to do that should be a boon to the town and should be helpful.
Do you
I agree. Yeah, my only comment is I agree and I appreciate the willingness to take the project on, and I think just seeing a plan for consideration on what they're thinking will help continue the conversation on.
I have one other question. I think maybe this is for Concom. I know Concom has deeded some land in town also. Would this forestry management plan encompass the conservation deeded properties as well? Or would that kind of be a bridge that would, because I think conservation maintains that authority already, and so I wasn't sure how it would fit into.
I think if we're looking at them, I mean, I would have to pull the commission, but I think, why not include ours, cause it falls under the same guys, so yes, I would expect. I would include it.
Does anybody have any other questions or comments?
Other comments?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. In relation to 2 phone calls that I've received in the last couple of days, a judge in Worcester told Worcester that they owe Holden $35 million in sewer fees. At one point in time, the town of Rutland, and I believe there were a total of 4 towns that were involved in this, and they were just wondering if, it still applied to the town of Rutland and everybody else, or if it's all Holden.
Do you have questions on the forest management plan?
Oh, no.
We're not
I'm
that,
sorry,
we're
I
not
apologize.
anything else yet. Still on forest management. Nothing for forest management plan though? Alright, and again, this is just to have the Conservation Commission kind of take a look at this and come forward with a plan and determine scope for the first step. So if the board is comfortable, we do have a motion in our packets.
So I move to designate the Conservation Commission pursuant to MGL Chapter 40, Section 8C, and MGL Chapter 45, Section 21, as the town's lead entity for conservation-focused forest management on town-owned lands, and to authorize the commission to work with the DCR Service Forester as necessary, develop a scope and procure professional forestry services for a townwide forestry stewardship plan, and prepare and submit a fiscal year 27 MVP action grant application or other applicable grant applications through EEA's ECO One Stop in coordination with the town administrator.
Second.
Motion is second, is there any discussion? Alex?
Oh, and
Second abstain.
Whitman, aye.
That's it.
Ledger I. Alright,
Thank you.
thank
We're
you,
gonna
we appreciate it. We
Take
look
our
forward
meeting to the other room.
Thank you very much, we look
Thank
forward to the updates. Thank you for all the volunteering for these.
I give them. Is that enough for tonight?
For now.
Enough for now. Alright, we're gonna go back to communications, member comments, announcements, and town administrator update. Just a few updates on my side. The DPW is offering email communications for water and sewer users to share information on water quality, infrastructure alerts, similar topics such as that. If anybody is interested, you can sign up visit the town website, on the DPW page, there is a form to fill out just with your contact information so you can receive those updates. The events committee is hosting a sock hop this Saturday. I think we've heard about this for a few weeks now. Tickets are still available. They are $10 each and can be purchased on the events committee town webpage or at the annex at the TA's office. Tickets are $10 each, and there is free babysitting offered at the library by the Teen Advisory Board. Nomination papers to run for elected office are available and can be picked up until March 19th in the town clerk's office. Full list of available elected positions are posted on the homepage under the news and announcements. Do we know the date that nomination papers have to be turned in?
March 23rd.
March 23rd. Okay, thank you. So you can pick up papers until March 19th, and then they have to be turned in March 23rd. And the February issue of the Central Tree Times is available on the website. Any other members have announcements they'd like to add?
I just would like to thank publicly in a select board meeting, town administrator's office, Seth, and all the department heads for all their work that they've been doing on the budget. I know it's been not fun or at times challenging process, and I really appreciate all the work that Heather, you have been working coming in as the budget was already developed. Thanks, Seth, for putting that all together. And you've been fielding all the questions and everything and working with the department heads as new information has been coming in. So I really, really appreciate the work that you, our office, as well as all the department heads and Seth have been doing to kind of keep that streamlined. And so I know that it sometimes might not feel that way, but I really, really appreciate all the work. And if I come across frustrated in some meetings, I apologize. I'm usually rushing in from a million things, so I'll try to be better. And I also just wanted to thank you and acknowledge all the staff that's been putting the long hours and the hard work in for a not fun process. So I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other member announcements? All right, I will turn it over for the town administrator update.
I just have a couple of updates for you, and I think I'll just start by saying thank you for the acknowledgement. I think that one of the biggest challenges that I'm feeling is not wanting to put out information that is still subject to change, because I know that leads to confusion, and confusion is counterproductive. So I know that there's frustration that there isn't more information available, but where we're still missing some rather large budget numbers, including your school assessment and our health insurance costs, both of which will dramatically or could potentially dramatically impact the bottom line. I'm just hesitant to put budget documents online until they are more set in stone. But to that end, we are working on some messaging, and I know we'll get to that later in the budget. But I just wanted to acknowledge that I'm aware that officials are anxious to see this information and see these materials, and the reason that there sort of appears to be a turtle pace from the town administrator's office is just for fear of getting information out there that I then have to take down and retract, and again, I don't want to create confusion. So that being said, my update will focus on all things not budget. Our fire department reports today that they had their annual ambulance inspection. This is a required state inspection, and our vehicles passed with no deficiencies or infractions, which marks the first time that our ambulance has achieved a fully compliant inspection. There's always a little tweak here and there that the inspectors find, and we finally were able to check all the boxes, and this certainly reflects the department's strong focus on readiness, maintenance standards, and regulatory compliance. So congratulations to the team for an A+ today. Our Council on Aging, our director, Nancy Nichols, is working diligently to spend the $20,000 ADA earmark that we received for ADA improvements at the Senior Community Center. The plan enhancements include the installation of a low-energy automatic door operator with a push-button activation, improving the accessible entry, and then accessibility upgrades to the restroom facilities to ensure compliance with ADA standards and improve safety and usability for all of our patrons. This is a multi-department office, a multi-office effort. We've roped in the building inspector, the fire department, and we are making significant progress quickly because we know that earmark expires in June. We received our 2025 financial audit. I did forward those documents to the Select Board and the Finance Committee, but it's important to acknowledge that that we do have an annual audit. The independent auditors have issued a clean opinion. A clean opinion means that there are no material weaknesses or concerns regarding our overall financial management, that we have strong internal controls, and that we have accurate financial reporting and compliance that are compatible with best standards as set by the Department of Revenue and the Division of Local Services. This is great. I know that you typically do receive clean opinions. It just worth noting that is a commitment every single day by your finance team to make sure that every single day they are doing all of the things and doing all of the things well. So appreciation to them. And then finally, our paving bid is due this week. We had put out an invitation for bids 2 weeks ago for full depth reclamation of Simon Davis Drive, Rufus Putnam Place, Sunnybrook Ave, Bethany Drive, Rebecca Ann Drive, and Davis Street. And we're optimistic that we put the bid out timely. And that paving contractors who are just starting to put together their spring schedules will be ready to provide some really competitive numbers. So that's exciting news, and a lot of credit to Public Works for putting this in place and getting that bid out so early in the season. So not only will we get the work done sooner, but we're able to take advantage of the contractors coming off their winter break. And that's all I have for you tonight, unless there's questions.
I have one question, if I may. For the congratulations to the fire department and for the finance team for all of their hard work, and for the COA for working forward to move that earmark forward. I just had a pause for ensuring that the work that is being done is truly ADA compliant over there, because I know that there has been work done in that building that has not been ADA compliant, and so I just want to put it out there to ensure that whomever is involved in the design and work is doing it so it is fully truly ADA compliant and not should be, or we can cut a corner here or there.
I appreciate that distinction.
So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes.
Again, I want to thank everyone for the work.
Yep. No, it's
I don't have any questions, but just as far as the FY25 audit, I did reach out to Heather, and we'll be reaching out to the financial folks that did the audit to invite them here to present that information to the board, as we have in the past. So we're gonna work on that, getting that scheduled as well.
I think that's a great idea, and I'm sure they'd be happy to come in and talk to you all about OPEB liability and health insurance.
Absolutely. All right, any other questions or anything for Heather? Okay, into old business, we have the Franklin T. Woodhouse, the draft RFP that was brought before the board at our last meeting. There were some requests for a few updates. Those changes have been made. And we have the updated draft in our packets. So tonight we'd be looking for any last questions and ideally authorization for the town administrator to move forward with publishing this RFP so we can move this process into its next phase. Any questions or concerns with the updates that were made?
If I may, I think a lot of this, we had talked about, some of the details would come out in a lease, the actual lease agreement rather than the RFP. So I appreciate all the work that we kind of, you guys, the office went through to pull this back together, so.
I think the most notable change was to Harry's point that we wanted to identify that parcel more completely. So I guess hoping that we added a whole section that more accurately defines what would be included and what would not be included. It might be too much information, but never. I did hear from the Historical Society as a potential bidder. They had asked that instead of the language stating up to 25 years, that it be simply defined as a 25-year lease. It would be my recommendation not to make that modification. The reason being that if you had additional bidders, and they may not find a 25-year lease advantageous, nor would this potentially the select board. So giving yourselves that flexibility, I think, is important, and I think that also establishing that it shall be a 25-year lease may deter other potential bidders from bidding if they know that they're going to be locked into a 25-year lease, as opposed to also having that flexibility of up to 25 years. So just wanted to make sure that you knew that they had reached out, and I responded with the same information that I've just shared with you.
Yeah, and that's again, this is just the RFP, so once the winner of the bid is awarded, then we move to the specific lease term agreements, and that lease term can be.
I just think that leaving it with the up to provides everybody, all possible parties with the most flexibility.
Including us as a select board,
Absolutely.
if something comes
Yeah.
in that is.
Absolutely.
Through the chair. Very nice job, Heather, thank you.
Second time's the charm.
I've read it 3 times and I don't know if you missed anything. Okay, so,
Great, thank you.
nice job.
Appreciate that.
If there's no concerns, then I will entertain a motion to authorize the town administrator to move forward with publishing a request for proposal for the Franklin T. Wood House at 232 Main Street as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second, is there any discussion? Alright, roll call, Alex
Vote aye.
Second,
Women.
That's an aye.
and Ledger I. Alright, moving into policy review. We have first the town building keys policy. Again, there was some discussion at the last meeting, and there were some additional changes made, I believe. Notably updating the buildings covered, to make that a little bit clearer, as well as leaving it open just for all town buildings, but specifying the major buildings that we had discussed previously. And I think we added the note in here about when dispatch is no longer there, that the location of emergency keys will likely obviously have to be moved. I think those are the biggest updates that were made. Anybody have concerns or anything with the changes that were made based on the feedback?
no, I think it covered everything. Everything we discussed anyways.
Alright, if there's no questions on those updates, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the revised town key policy as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Alright, roll call, Alex.
Vote aye.
Second, aye.
Lemon.
That's it,
Ledger I. And we have a new one on here, the procurement policy. I'm going to have Heather give us the details on the need here for these updates, if I may.
Certainly. As a requirement of the recycle dividend program, which is a small grant program offered through the state, where a community receives several $1,000s for its recycling efforts and other initiatives, including a buy recycled policy. We're required to occasionally update this policy. It is currently a select board policy under its own separate heading. So it would be my suggestion that since it's procurement, that we add it as a addendum to your procurement policy, so that while we're updating the existing policy, which is your buy recycled policy, that you no longer maintain it as its own standalone policy, that you allow it to become an addendum to your procurement policy. Which is maybe making it more complicated initially, but I'm hoping that it just takes one it eliminates one full policy from your very lengthy list. And the policy updates really are pretty minor. It's more just keeping up with the state's recycle policy, which becomes more stringent and specific all the time. And it also keeps up with the state's procurement laws. Really encouraging a municipality to work from the state bid list as much as possible. They maintain a whole separate bid document specifically for recycled products, and it really is sort of directing the community to move in that direction as well.
So you're gonna compress what the policy is on recycle into an addendum item, pretty
Well,
much.
it'll still be it's still the full length of the document. I'm
Okay.
just, because it's specific to how we procure products, so it's stating that when we go to buy copy paper, that we look first to whether or not there is a copy paper that meets the recycled product standards, and that we consider that first. We're not obligated to buy that product, but this policy just states that we should do our very best to buy recycled whenever possible. Because it's a procurement process, I'm just asking that you add it to your procurement policy instead of it being standalone. I think it'll be something that people find more easily if it's part of the procurement policy, as opposed to it being its own standalone and people could scroll right by it and not be aware that we have it.
My question, I guess I asked was, because it's recycle, I read somewhere in here that you're encouraging to use both sides of the paper. So therefore, I'm thinking, well, if they only use one side, then they gotta recycle it. So that's what I thought maybe you were referring to, is recycling what we have for the best, so we don't spend more.
Well, it's certainly part of to look at what you have before you buy, but I think that's something that we as individuals do in our own homes and households, and I think it's just an extension of that mindfulness here at the town hall and our departments as well. I don't know that it's always appropriate to recycle and use both sides of the paper, but as you can see from our packets, that's something that that we do.
Right. Okay.
If I may. I appreciate putting it kind of in together with the procurement policy. My only pause is just because it's not necessarily procurement in the sense of meeting a dollar threshold, but more procurement in the sense of materials that you should be looking, we should be looking for, that it gets lost in the shuffle also. And so I don't know if there's a way to pull out or to highlight that it includes its procurement, including the buy, recycle, or whatever language that is, just so that people as they're scrolling see, oh, there is procurement for, I think a lot of times when I hear procurement, I think automatically of the over $10,000 threshold. I realize that there's the process for under 10,000, but I think oftentimes that where my mind goes is the $10,000 plus. So if there's a way to just pull out that we also have that buy, recycle piece in there,
So maybe a subheading,
something, yeah.
okay.
Or
Nope.
designation of
Yeah.
what in the policy applies to the buy
Yeah,
recycle
if it's
policy.
procurement, you know, under, maybe it's just procurement under 10,000, over 10,000, buy, recycle, or, you know, that there's those three subheadings or whatever, just for the process.
And I'm not trying to overcomplicate
No,
this, it really was more along the lines of wanting to streamline how many policies.
and
I think we all appreciate that.
I was gonna say, I fully appreciate that for sure. And I know oftentimes, and I don't know for this, from the state bid list perspective, but I know from like the office supply perspective, oftentimes the higher percent post-consumer recycled material is as cheaper than the not, and I think the state's really doing a good job to push that, so.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to put that out also, that obviously we would still have the authority based on price or cost,
Right.
to make that final decision, but
Right.
it pushes that.
And sometimes a product that is made of recycled product doesn't really meet our needs, and I think that I appreciate the fact that the state recognizes that. But back to my original thought is that by your adoption of this revised policy, we stay compliant with the recycled dividends program, and that brings in between $2,500 and $4,000 annually that we can then use to offset our assessment for Wachusett Earth Day, which is something that we spent some time on at our last joint budget meeting. So every little bit counts, and I appreciate the consideration.
I'm all in favor of it. Do you need I mean, I know.
Do you wanna wait to see the updated draft, or are you comfortable with?
I mean, I think we
It's
have the new
amazing.
policy
Oh, I'm sorry.
draft here.
I didn't know what you meant by updated. Did you just mean with that subheading?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I personally,
This is basically the official draft, right? Yeah, so.
I mean, I'm comfortable just making the motion to approve as presented with the consideration of working in the subheadings also and kind of leaving it. I don't wanna micromanage that piece at all. It was just a
It's
talking
a,
Just to make that piece clear, yeah.
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 And I'm fine with that too, if that's.
it's a good
Board's
suggestion.
amenable.
I don't think we have a motion set, do we?
Leah's going to. Oh, no, we don't have a motion for this one, so.
I would move to accept the updated procurement policy, including the recycled product procurement policy addendum, all in one inclusive as presented, just with the comment of working to add in the 2 to 3 subheadings as far as procurement options to highlight that there is that buy recycle piece as well.
Second.
Motion and a second.
And hopefully we'll be bringing this back when the Mass Municipal Act changes our thresholds.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Alright, roll call. Alex
Second, I.
Women,
That's a,
and Ledger I. Alright, next we have the interboard communication. This was the topic introduced at our last meeting. Again, just to try and enhance that collaborative piece between the select board and the boards and commissions that the board appoints, just to keep up to date with what they're working on, any concerns that they might have, any support that they might need from the select board. There were some concerns with the timelines and the time commitment with preparing materials for this, so we did go through and update the action plan just to reduce the general structure and just, it should be pretty brief, and then there's also some memo text in here for your consideration as far as conveying this to the boards and commissions, that it's not intended to add any additional work, it's all something that should be able to be accomplished within a regular meeting format and whatnot. So just wanted to bring back those revisions and get the board's feedback if you're comfortable. There's also a draft schedule. Some of the dates have already passed, so those that have already passed, we can add them to the tail end of the schedule, which might line up with some of the discussions that we've been having this evening. I just wanted to bring this back before the board just to see what your feedback on the edits was and your comfort level moving forward.
I appreciate it. I think the, kind of leaving it a little, trying to make it a little bit less formal, but still provide an avenue to ensure that we're not missing anybody or that things are getting pushed off, so I appreciate that. Do you envision, I think in my mind, if there was work going on with some of these boards or committees, that would necessitate a sooner meeting or an earlier meeting or more frequent meetings, that's not off the table, that this draft is simply a draft to ensure that we're kind of hitting everybody at least once a year, like a rolling year versus
Absolutely.
it's set in stone and we're not meeting with anybody in addition or shuffling around or whatever.
Absolutely. I mean, like a lot of the ones on here, we tend to only meet with a lot of these boards when there's something that needs to be talked about. So again, this is just a way for, and I don't know that we've ever had really a joint meeting with the 4th of July committee or the events committee or even the council on aging or the board of trustees. Again, we typically have these conversations when there's something reactive that we're trying to deal with, and this is again more of a proactive, what's going on, can we help with anything type approach.
Is this schedule been communicated to the?
No, not yet, which is why we brought it here, just to get everybody's thoughts on.
I'm gonna make a personal request that CIBC be changed to another night. I would love to be here for that. Unfortunately, that day I'm gonna be in Florida.
I can't remember, I think did we have them on the schedule for budget?
Not yet,
Not
no,
yet, okay.
I think we did, but I think that time frame passed because we
Okay.
kind of adjusted things a little bit. We tried to give consideration to when certain boards and committees are kind of like in the height
Yeah,
of their
of their-
meeting time.
Okay.
So yeah, we can
Certainly look
definitely be
to
flexible.
modify that. Is there a date, when are you,
I'll be back by the 30th.
Okay.
So,
of March?
If I may, to follow up on Harry's point, I don't know, looking at the 4th of July and Events Committee meeting in June and July, those are really busy seasons for them. So I don't know if that would be preferable to them to meet in the height of their busyness as far as the planning and everything, or if they would rather push off until either, you know what I mean, that's my only.
That's actually kind of why we put them here is, and again, if this is okay, the plan is to send this out now so that they have multiple months to say, this is our date, what can we put together, and again, just knowing that they are, this is getting into their busy season, so they'll have more to share and if there's anything, again, that we can assist with and participate in that discussion.
That's totally fine, I just know that they are often meeting much more frequently as it is, and so to potentially ask them out another night, I didn't know if it would be too much or if they would appreciate it, so that was, I don't care either way, it was just
Yeah, I think it was definitely strategically done, and I think if we get this sent out and there's, if these committees meet and they have concerns with the proposed date, I would certainly recommend that they reach out and we can adjust schedules as necessary.
So I guess maybe if that could just be communicated out also, that this is kind of the select board's draft thinking, but we're, open to if it's too hectic of a season for them or whatever. I think also, I don't know the date for the cultural council, grant applications, if that's right around, I know it's usually in the fall, I can't remember if it's October or November, so I think that having them potentially before the grant applications, just as an opportunity, or before the grant applications are due, just for an opportunity for any potential interest that may come out of it. Thank you.
Just looking at this, I'm wondering if we could just switch CIPC and the bylaw committee. Would that be agreeable? That'll put CIPC on April 13th. Just as to address that concern, and then again, if there's concerns with the dates from the committees
that works.
on here, we can address those as they come in.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, and is everybody comfortable with the updates to the action plan? Any concerns with the memo text?
I don't have any concerns, or I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong here. I think the only question question or comment is, this is a request, not like a requirement, is the way I'm understanding this request, right? Like we're asking them to update us on what's going on. We're not saying you have to do this.
I'm gonna say, for me personally, it's a strong request.
Okay, so if it's a request or a requirement, what happens when someone says no?
Well, and I think this is where we need to see how it goes, and if we just, as a board, just start getting messages that it's just not working, then
I guess I'm gonna be a little bit harder in saying that we appoint those committees, they serve at the pleasure of the board. So yes, it is a strong request. It's not a mandate, but it is a strong request.
I think we can reevaluate and see.
Yeah.
See how it's going. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think for me, I wanna recognize that these are all volunteers and a lot of them are giving up a lot of their time as it is. So while I would love to see that, I think, and I brought this up before, having them kind of quote unquote summoned here to present to us, in the past, there's been that dialogue back as, well, you're more than welcome to come to our meetings also. And so I just wanna make sure that it's communicated in such a way that we're really trying to do this as an opportunity to provide dialogue, and not as a gotcha kind of thing, if that makes sense.
I guess I understand where you're coming from, Leah, but if somebody says that, you're welcome to come to our meetings, I'm going, okay. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'd have to be at every meeting to know what's going on, and it would only be me and not the board. So this is a way for them to show us that they're willing to communicate with us on what's going on without every meeting being attended to.
And I think we had brought up at the last meeting as well, Heather had mentioned looking into, some AI that could help collate meeting minutes, updates to help with
It's on the
these,
list.
with the, the summaries that we're looking
Right.
to have as well. So again, we're not looking to have this be an added burden.
Right.
And it's, again, we're not asking the entire committee or board to attend. They can designate somebody to provide, to come to a meeting. So if, one individual's schedule is more available than the next, and again, some flexibility if the date doesn't work. I don't want this to feel like it's a burden, but we have to, in my opinion, start somewhere to keep this collaboration and this communication open. And I guess I see it as, this is my olive branch to those that feel like the select board is not keeping.
I will say this, when I sat on the CIPC, I would have enjoyed having the board reach out to me and say, hey, we'd like to talk to you. It's a way of recognizing that you're important and we want to sit down and just to talk with you. So if they say no, it's kind of like, wow, you don't think we're important? It cuts both ways.
I kind of agree, Harry, just in my past experience on the historical commission, I
Yeah.
would have also welcomed. Not just, again, being reactive to something that we need the support for, but just the general communication.
So we'll see.
I move to adopt the interboard communication policy as presented, just with the note that some of those dates need to be shuffled around a little bit as we discussed.
So motion?
That was a motion to accept the interboard policy?
Yes.
Oh,
And communicate to the,
oh,
Yep.
okay.
alright, so we have a motion, is there a second?
I will second, I just, I don't know if I missed this comment, the schedule, I know was mostly a draft that you had put together, obviously, we're gonna shift some of those things. Before we fully adopt, is this something that we should send out to the committees to see if they have a thought on when their day would be and then finalize, or?
The goal of having the schedule right now is, again, to try and solidify what those are. So if we present them with, here's what we'd like to have you, and then have them come back to us to say, if we could change it just due to this conflict.
So we're accepting, the motion, and it's more about adopting the not policy, the
The action plan, yeah.
action plan, not necessarily the calendar as put
Right,
together.
well, to at least, the approvals to move forward with the calendar, with that switching of CIPC and bylaw committee, with the understanding that it may be updated due to conflicts if individual.
Throughout, okay, so
Reach out.
relatively
Yeah.
flexible schedule as we move
Yes.
through. Yeah,
Yes.
okay, cool.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second, any other discussion? Alright, roll call, Alex
Modai?
Second, aye.
That's it.
and Ledger, aye. Thank you, everybody, I appreciate that consideration. Alright, moving back into new business, next on the list is the FY 27 budget. So this topic is to discuss public outreach efforts for the proposed override. So I will hand this over to Heather to review the documents that have been sent so far.
So we'll start with the proposed public information session flyer that we've put together. Some a potential schedule for the hearings and additional events that are happening that we can take advantage of, such as the Community Expo. I think there's also the townwide yard sale. I'm sure we will be walked past by every single person as they are getting the next best deal. We're scheduling most of these for the library facility simply because it is the most centrally located and accessible building. But we'll certainly have one at the senior center as well. And in addition to this, I would propose some more informal events. I'm proposing a coffee with the town administrator for a series of afternoons in the month of March, where I will sort of position myself with a cup of coffee and meet and greet anybody that wants to come and talk budget. And then as some other, I'd like to attend a few of the luncheons at the senior center and just have some one-on-one conversations there as well. I've put it out to anybody and everybody that if there are other events, community or you know, events that you or organizations that you are members of that you think would be open to a 15-minute presentation by myself or by other department heads, I'm happy to attend those as well. So this is more of the formal schedule of public information sessions, but opening it up to individual and more informal settings as well. Any initial concerns or questions about the proposed schedule? Is there enough of them? Are there too many?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that it's a good number. My only pause is if we should try to fit one more in over at the building on Glenwood during the hours. Cause I know that Monday morning is there, but I don't know what other day is heavy use. I know they used to do Friday morning or Friday midday or something over there also, so I just was trying to see if a different population of the participants are there on a different day. But that's my only, I think otherwise, I mean, even without that, it's fine,
Yeah, no,
My question is just to confirm if you, what's your preferred board involvement for these? Do you want to see if we have a quorum and have meeting agendas posted, or is this just if you're available, select board members can attend and provide their comments or help respond to questions?
well, I guess that's a question back to you all. What is your comfort level with participating? In the past, I have not had boards post meetings, although several members have attended. A, to show support, and two, to use that as an opportunity to gauge reaction. To hear the questions that are being asked, give me a little evaluation. So I guess that's entirely up to the board. I'm happy to post a meeting for each of the events as a just in case, but I don't want the board to feel that attendance at every one of them is necessary or that I'm expecting you to be at all of them.
To me, can you remind, I feel like we did post agendas for these last year.
I don't remember if we did that or not.
so last year they were totally on select board because the select board decided not to pursue the override, so at that
Right.
point it was more information as to the non-override budget, and so it was totally on select board to field those. I think in the previous time when Gary was here and FinCom was the supporting agent, I can't remember if FinCom supported or posted meetings for those, but I don't think they did.
No, cause we assigned like 2 or 3
Individuals.
people to go to each of them.
And I know sometimes there were other FinCom members or select board members in the audience that were there to, just as you reiterated, like to listen and take feedback and everything, but not really actively participate. If there was something that the town administrator needed, had questions or something, they might direct towards or, seek information back, but that was, last year was totally different.
Okay. If I could, as a suggestion, again, just to be, I'm sure people have to look at schedules, and I know some of the daytime during the week for those of us that work might be tougher to get to. But as a suggestion, would the board be comfortable with posting meetings for these dates and times in the event that there's a quorum? Should we need to have any conversation, and just leave it open to whichever board members are available for whatever dates?
I
And we
personally,
can
I'd leave it
always-
open, and if the quorum there, I'll wear a sign that says citizen, not board member, so they know.
I was gonna say, I kind of
Just do
agree
it
with
that way?
Harry and not posting, because I feel like if it's posting, then those of us that can't make it, but if there is a quorum, then it makes it more difficult.
Okay.
Because I imagine some of these may be recorded, but some may not, just because of the location and the
Sure, yeah.
time and everything, and so I really think any discussion that comes out of that should really happen either at one of our budget meetings or at a board meeting, and not, that way the entire board as well as the public can hear that conversation personally.
Okay, no, I'm comfortable with that, as long as the board's comfortable with just not posting, and we'll
Yeah,
just
the other thing is, I don't wanna feel like when they show up,
speak as individuals.
like they're showing up to a board meeting.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be low key, it's supposed to be informational, and that's it. So,
Okay, so we'll keep these here, we'll look at potentially adding an additional session at the Glenwood building,
And I don't wanna stress about that, I just don't know if there's
an option
no,
that seems to work.
absolutely.
Heather, you and Tamika and probably Nancy know better the population and days and hours that would make the most sense, if it makes sense at all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Name and address, please.
Michelle Van Reet, 230 Tarmac Hill Road. I hear you talking about going to the senior center, and I know that the school budget is part of the process of the town budget. I'm wondering if you've considered asking the PTOs if you could be available at PTO meetings at the 3 schools.
I'd love to.
That might be a good outreach for that demographic, which tends to complain about taxes or not being able to afford it, but not really understanding it. It's a good education outreach. Because I don't think a lot of people really understand, even my age people don't understand the budget process. So I think it's a good way to reach out to that segment of the population that sometimes feels like.
That's exactly the feedback I'm looking for. Thank you very much.
So we have PTO contacts, so we should be able to reach out and see when their potential meetings are that we could infiltrate.
And similar, I don't know about Rutland Little League and Rutland Youth Soccer and Wachusett Cheer and flag football and everything. I know not all of those are Rutland only, but I think a lot of the board members are. So I don't know, to kind of piggyback on just getting that information out to a broader set of demographics, and a lot of those may not be able to make some of these meetings just because of sport commitments.
Because they're committed elsewhere.
Yeah.
Great. Keep the suggestions coming. Thank you.
And thank you for putting this together and for all the time that you're going to be.
Well, it's important that we get these scheduled so people can get them on their calendars. So that leads to the next document that I provided, which is sort of a very robust sort of set of deliverables and calendar schedule. Just to let you feel the cadence in which we want to make sure that we're posting on social, that we're uploading documentation to the website to keep this very much in the public's conscious. And if there's something that I haven't thought about, to be able to add it, and again, with the caveat that I sent you this morning, that I realized I didn't give you a lot of time with it, so this will be on your agenda for Thursday, so there can be more discussion and more feedback then. But sort of the my expectation or my ask is that whatever feedback you have on whether this is the right direction that you feel that your constituents will receive well, or if it's, I guess, too much of a bombardment of information, or you know, I guess just a sense from you all how you feel the community would respond to that type of outreach.
If there's any comments on what's there, otherwise we can have the time to review it at our meeting
I'd
Thursday.
like to, I had a question, but I'm gonna save it if we can review this.
Yes, it's on the agenda for Thursday.
I'll save it for later.
And then finally is a very boring and somewhat lengthy list of topics of the impacts of the override. We're working on developing shorter, more graphically pleasing
Snippets.
flyers and snippets that will go out. But I wanna make sure that there's one central document where I'm capturing all of the possible ramifications and impacts. So it is lengthy, and I don't expect that if we were to publish this, that anybody would read it. But it is sort of the working document in the list. So please feel free to email any additions that you feel are appropriate. It's still with department heads. I'm getting their feedback. You know, everybody's had a chance to look at it at different times and is responding accordingly. We are working on a one pager that I'll have for Thursday that we intend to have in every office. You know, have them on tables in town hall, tables at the community center, senior center, on the table at the library. So we'll have a one pager for Thursday for your review. But again, any input that you have into the lengthy list of impacts would be very beneficial. And I think that the other component that I didn't really touch on is that the cable staff is working with all the department heads to queue up some videos. I think that our approach to this is gonna be to do the interviews and put them all together into one video, and then have shorts that we can then distill and release on social media. You know, keep people's attention span in mind. So that's in the process, and I think that's great. And we plan to have two videos, one that really highlights all of the great things that every department is doing and every department head is focusing on, providing services and benefits to the residents. And then we'll have a second video that will tend towards the narrative of what the budget reductions might look like to those services. 2 tracks.
So if I might, so we're looking at presenting to the townspeople one of 2 things. One is an override, no matter what it is. If it doesn't pass, then we go to a slash budget. There is no alternative. There isn't an in-between that says, you know what, well, maybe we can take 300, not take or say, not move 300,000 and we'll cut that so we don't have to slash as much, but we still have to slash. It's either you do this or you're in tough luck.
I think ultimately that's a select board decision. It's a strong recommendation from my office that we do not use any additional any additional free cash or other one-time revenues. Every $100,000 that you use turns into $200,000 the following year. You're just digging yourselves into a deeper and deeper hole that you'll never climb out of. And I say that understanding how difficult of a decision that will be, but I just can't in good faith recommend that you continue that practice.
I'm not even talking about where. I'm just talking about, have we thought about another alternative that puts less stress, less pain on our townspeople, and ultimately less on the employees of the town that we can do. So I'm looking at, and not now, but let's say it doesn't go through. When we come back to discuss the budget, we still have the opportunity to decide if we really want to slash that much, or do we not put this here or do that there. It's not a totally slash budget, is what I'm trying to say. Because otherwise, you really are.
If I may, I think.
I just think that telling them that this is the way it's gonna be is tough when we haven't looked at, and that's why I asked, have we looked at it? And if not, then the board can choose that when the time comes.
If I could, just, I get, because this topic is centered on the education efforts for the override. I hear what you're saying, and if the board feels like we need to come up with potential additional options, I know, like, for example, last year, Paxton, I think they actually called a special town meeting to try for an additional override. There are potential options, but if that's something the board's interested in discussing, I would say we should put it for a different agenda.
I don't wanna confuse our townspeople anymore.
I agree.
I'm just saying, when the time comes, we still have the flexibility to decide what gets cut or what doesn't get put away or things like that in the slash budget. We still have the opportunity at that point.
So you'll have already had your town meeting. And at that town meeting is when you make the appropriations. So the select board does not have the authority to make appropriations after that town meeting. You'd have to call another town meeting. You wouldn't be able to add money from any source without a town meeting vote.
we'd have to come up with a plan and have another town meeting
with
to-
the slash budget.
with changes to
No, with,
whatever was
no, I'm
approved
not
at town
proposing a
meeting.
change, I'm saying after if it gets voted down, God, I hope it doesn't. If it gets voted down, the select board then has to deal with the cuts. The select board and the finance committee still have the opportunity to figure out where those cuts are going to come from and how. Just because we did it here doesn't mean it's cement, because we're not presenting it to the town, the slash budget.
Yes, well,
We are,
essentially
yeah.
you are, because you have to present a balanced budget, we have to have a balanced budget. So essentially, you would be presenting the slash, your reference to it as a slash budget, the reduced, we have to go to town meeting with a balanced budget.
Right, but that's why we have this educational document that we're working on to outline what the residents are gonna see as a result of if we have to implement that cut budget. The department heads are providing their feedback so that we can have it outlined for residents, right?
You have to have a balanced budget before June 30th.
Right.
So if town meeting does not support the override at any tier, then you will have to come back, either the budget gets reduced to the balanced budget, which is a $3.1 million worth of cuts, or you can go back to town meeting with a different budget that pulls funds from, I guess, other one-time sources or another override option. You don't have the discretion to add funds back to a budget without going through town meeting, I think, is what you're asking.
I don't,
So,
no, I don't think I am. But that's something maybe we can take offline here so we don't take up
okay,
time. Okay, but my question was, does the select board really have flexibility? We gotta do 3.1 million. But within that 3.1 million, there are things that don't require service losses that we might be able to cut. So now we maintain some services while other stuff gets not done, so to speak. Does the select board have, that's what I'm
So,
saying.
I think that because so much of your budget is the undistributed indirects, no, I don't think that you have an opportunity to find enough money in those other areas to make up $3.1 million.
Oh, I'm not saying, but what
yeah.
if we could make up 300,000? See, that's all I'm looking at.
If there were three, so not to belabor, but I think that now would be the best time if there's a feeling that there's $300,000 that can be made up. Now would be the time to have that discussion, rather than get to town meeting and then have to go back.
So maybe I'll bring it up at the joint meeting on Thursday.
Yes, yeah. If you've identified an opportunity for a $300,000 savings, please let me know.
I don't know what it's gonna be,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, if it
Yeah.
was 200,000.
Yeah.
Do we owe it to the town and the employees?
But I sincerely encourage that if anybody feels that those opportunities are there, let's have that discussion now rather than after.
Okay.
Alright, so we have this, if there's any feedback in advance of Thursday, ideally send that to Heather for inclusion and updates, and otherwise we'll revisit the educational materials again on Thursday.
Okay.
With ideally the goal of approving so that we
Yeah.
can start distributing, yes?
We wanna have something, we wanna have some clear information to be able to put on the website that does not tie us to a specific bottom line, simply because we don't know what that number is. But we know approximately what it is, and we wanna make sure that that's the information that we're putting online and moving forward with that as our sort of overall general messaging, that we're all in agreement. So again, if there are areas that we're not in agreement on, now is a really good time to determine that, so that our messaging doesn't change
Right.
as we move through this process.
Okay, we'll discuss on Thursday.
To be continued Thursday.
Yep, thank you.
Any other,
So
sorry,
just, Heather, I think this might be helpful for the conversation on Thursday, and I don't know the percentages off the top of my head, but the total town budget, about 60% of that currently is for education. That leaves about 40% remaining for town services and the town side of government. And then of that 40 remaining percent, what dollar amount of that is kind of untouchable because it's the set indirects, right, the salaries, the insurance, and if I remember correctly, I think about of the I'm gonna round $3 million, we're working with maybe 8-ish million that we could potentially reduce. Otherwise it's all contractual and everything that then is obviously much larger impacts as well. So I think just from a framework for, and maybe it doesn't even have to be on Thursday, but for some of that education piece that our municipal budget is X, education is Y, and that's consistent across the state. In fact, the 60% is consistently now on the lower side from talking to a lot of people at MMA. They're seeing a lot more. And so, thank you.
Yep.
Alright, so moving into next item is the ADA coordinator position. This is something that I will say for me personally to have on the agenda is a big deal. It's a position that has been vacant for a little while. I believe there are MGL requirements around the town having an ADA coordinator, as well as specific information that we have to have on our website about ADA and the ADA compliance. So this is for the board's information and consideration. One, to consider appointing an ADA coordinator, which the recommendation is that be the town administrator, in this case Heather, to fill that role, as well as consideration for creating a disabilities commission, which would again, I mean, the info's in your packets, but essentially would be a new commission that would be made up of residents that have disabilities that would have the charge of essentially evaluating everything town and providing recommendations through the town administrator's office on improvements for accessibility. Heather, I don't know if you wanna add anything.
So the Americans with Disabilities Act does require that a municipality have an ADA coordinator. Rutland is currently, does not have that position filled. Quite often, as Jen said, it is assigned to the town administrator. I've had that particular role identified on my behalf coming into a new community. This is the first time that I've ever asked for it. So that's one of the components. But to truly make that role meaningful, if the select board would consider asking town meeting to create the disability commission, it gives the community such a leg up in applying for the Americans with Disability grant programs. Some of the grant programs that I'm familiar with will give a community up to $200,000 to do ADA work. And one of the primary goals of the Disability Commission would be to do what they call a transition plan. And that is basically an overview of all of your public spaces with the lens of accessibility. And there are grant funds that are available to hire a consultant that would work with your commission to do that work, and you are presented with a plan that prioritizes the work, building by building, space by space. And then you use that plan to apply for additional grant funds to do the work. Communities that have a commission are automatically scored higher in that grant ranking system, and for obvious reasons. Well, one is it shows that the community supports this and has a commission of individuals that are dedicated to doing the work. But it also provides an avenue for residents to interact with the commission and provide feedback, and it just is an overall I guess benefit to the community to have that. And much like we were talking about with the forestry management, there are no downsides to it. It just provides such access for those who have a disability, to know that their community supports them, to know that there's a designated group of individuals that are there to hear from them, to make suggestions, to make complaints. And then it would be my job as the coordinator to act as the liaison between the commission and the administration at the state level to sort of put all of that into action. So something I strongly support, and I think it's a really it's of all the things I do in my job, this is one that I feel has benefits that just go beyond railings in a bathroom, right? There are things on our website that we could do to make that more accessible. There are things that we can do in our meetings and our minutes, and anyways, there's some really tangible stuff that we can do right away, and I think it'd be a definite benefit to the town.
I was gonna say, this is hits home for, this is what I do in my day job, is accessibility. So my experience has taught me that it's much broader. It's not just, as you said, the person that's in a wheelchair. There's short-term disabilities, there's the website that you mentioned. The websites need to be accessible. There's people with low vision, it's all these things that people don't necessarily think about as part of this, and having a commission that would be able to review this, to use a term we used earlier, holistically, evaluating everything, from our building spaces to our website, to ensure that everybody has access to this information equally, is extremely important.
I found it really interesting when we were having, Mass DOT was doing a $5 million tip improvement project in one of the communities, and they were so focused on the public hearing process and how the public hearing was the only the primary opportunity for residents to come and see the plans and make sure that see how the project would impact their particular parcels. And there was a facility in that neighborhood with people with disabilities, and none of them could participate in that public hearing process. And it just, there are aspects that we just never really take into consideration, and this is an opportunity to have a group of people that would help us identify what those changes and improvements could be and make us more accessible as a town.
If I may, I fully support this. In years past, the town administrator has been the ADA coordinator, so my guess is it was missed this past year with the appointments, just because we were in the transition with an interim and everything of that nature. But I love the idea of establishing a commission, and I need to look at this, sorry, I skimmed on this a little bit, but I just wanna ensure that it's, the commission is set with individuals who are looking at things truly through a need for
It's a requirement.
Okay.
The Mass Office requires that a certain percentage of the commission members have to have either a disability themselves or an immediate family member.
And I think in the past, the challenge has been finding volunteers to fulfill that. So I know from even doing the work with the master plan and the open space plan, that having that ADA compliance piece is huge. And I believe CMRPC has a lot of opportunities even for assistance, whether it's through grants or whatever. So I fully wanna take advantage of it. I just wanna make sure that we're doing it truly to benefit our our community as a whole. And I know even just as far as, you know, subtitles on our meetings and everything, that's been a challenge to have consistently, and accessibility elsewhere. So I think I fully support it, and I just wanted to say, I think more recently historically, it has been, as the ADA coordinator has been sitting with the town administrator, so I think that is fair for sure. And I love the idea of a commission. I just wanna ensure that that we're able to staff it appropriately, and B, that it's staffed with people that are looking at it from that entirety holistic piece.
I don't think there's a requirement for a set number of people, so we'll just be mindful of that we don't wanna make the,
It says 5 to 13,
so if we had
it's
5 people and
to
4.
start with, right?
And if I may, would that commission then also work with like department heads and staff to ensure that department heads and staff are trained as to what or is that a separate,
That would be under
Okay.
me. So the commission serves the residents.
Yep.
And is a opportunity for residents to interact with the commission, and then the commission, basically I would then work for the commission as their technical advisor
As their staff.
and basically their admin. But again, I've worked with the with this particular grant program extensively. I know that I know what kind of projects that they look for. I know that putting a transition plan into place is the first step. And they will support, they will provide grant funding for that transition plan if your town doesn't already have one, or if your town has one, but it's out of date. So that would be a really great first step, is to identify where we have issues.
I think it also can potentially open us up for additional grant, recreation and like council on aging's type, human services type grants, because we have that plan in place. So
Yeah.
I know oftentimes they look at that, whether it's a competitive grant or just even for a so I think that there's huge value to it.
Knowing where your deficiencies are is in being able to back that up, kind of like what you were saying with the master plan. You know, if you can track it back to a document, then you're really ahead of the game. But again, communities that don't have a commission, they can still apply for the grants, but they automatically lose points in that scoring matrix, simply because they don't have so it just puts us ahead.
And we have had some resident outreach and interest in this area already, so
We have?
optimistic that
Can we know who they are if they reached out to us? I mean, maybe I know some, I was thinking of Ted Purcell, type of thing, so that's what I'm saying.
I think if moving this forward, I think we would be able to promote what we're looking to do here. I think it would be, like I said, I'm optimistic that we would have volunteers that would be interested in fulfilling the role on this.
I think the commission's a good thing. My only concern here is that this is written as a job description for hire.
Well, that's the ADA coordinator role,
Well,
right?
right, and I'm saying, when are we gonna do that? Cause if we fund it with the grant money, that's one thing, cause the town right now can't afford anything.
So the ADA coordinator would be under my role. So I would be, you would appoint me as your ADA coordinator, and I'm already on your staff, so there are no additional appropriations.
Not today, Heather.
It
So,
wouldn't be anyways.
yeah, so
We're not
you,
gonna hire an ADA coordinator?
never.
No.
Oh,
No. You are required by law to have an ADA coordinator, to have somebody appointed to that role. And to Leah's point, if it was skipped in your last round of appointments, we just wanna make sure that we're remedying that. Consistently throughout the Commonwealth, either the town manager or the town administrator. So I have seen in some cases where if there's a facilities manager, the role could be assigned to the facilities manager. But in most towns, it's the town administrator. Under the contract, the last line of my contract, all other duties as assigned,
mhm,
that's where that falls right in.
okay. So this is not a committee, this is a commission.
The legislation is set up so that town meeting would create a commission.
Okay. Does the select board still have control over that commission?
They
Yes.
appoint.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
When we bring it to town meeting, we would have to identify who the appointing authority is, and it would be my anticipation that it would be the select board.
Okay.
And my understanding is if with town appointed boards or committees or commissions, then in order to unseat that commission, it needs to go back to town meeting to remove it. It just kind of is another layer of
Yeah.
of I guess skin in the game, teeth for that board or committee or commission. That it's not just how we did with economic development, because that
Right.
never went to town meeting. That wasn't established at town meeting. That was just a committee that the board established, and we could
Yeah.
undo it.
It would be like your planning board or your conservation commission, right? There are certain boards and committees that are statutorily required to have town meeting authorization, and this is one of them.
But
I think
the
you
select board would still have authority over the members,
To a
Right.
not
point,
the
correct.
commission itself,
Correct.
so to speak.
Right.
No.
Right.
Okay.
Just like historical commission is an appointed commission.
Yeah.
Concom,
Yeah.
same thing, so.
Yes, it would definitely be a select board appointment, and we would want to establish how many members and before we get to town meeting, we still have some questions to answer. I just wanna make sure that this is supported so that as we work our way towards May, we're putting that together.
Yeah, so if I could, since there's two pieces to this, we have the ADA coordinator position, or if the board is comfortable making a motion to appoint Heather in that role this evening, then we can move forward with that.
I'm very comfortable with that. I mean, I would say it should just be default, and I thought it had been default that it was a town administrator, so every year for our yearly appointments, it was just town administrator
Yeah, I
that
think
was
I
the
remember
default.
that, yeah.
And so I think it must have just been skipped this year, but I'm 100% comfortable with that. So do you want it as a motion as Heather specifically, or just as a town administrator?
Town administrator?
Well, I think you should identify that Heather Butler,
As town
as
administrator.
town administrator, is your ADA
Okay.
coordinator.
Okay. So I would move to appoint our town administrator Heather Butler as our ADA coordinator for the remaining fiscal year 26. And because I think that should be a yearly appointment, I believe.
Yeah.
Or to run concurrently with my contract, perhaps.
I'm comfortable with
I would be comfortable with that.
the concurrency of the town administrator
Because I-
contract.
One of the documents that you have to submit with the grant applications is proof that that you, Heather, have been appointed, so
So
I think this is,
That would make more sense, so that
Yep.
in the event that
And-
we miss something again during appointments.
And I think that fits with kind of that it's a role and function of the town administrator position. So I'm comfortable with that. Tamika, do you have that
I do.
motion adjusted or
Yep, I
amended
did.
or whatever? Thank you.
Yes.
Alright, thank you.
Second,
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the ADA coordinator appointment? Alright, roll call, Alex.
vote aye.
Second, aye?
Wait a minute.
Mention it.
Right, thank you. And then part two with the Disabilities Commission, just, it sounds like the board is in favor of pursuing this if we want to work with the town administrator's office to kind of come up with a plan of what needs to be done to present this for town meeting in May. Are we comfortable bringing this back around?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss it more, so as we go forward, we can figure out, cause I guess I wanna know a little bit more about what that commission does, what power it has. That's kind of where my concern is. We've got a lot of committees out there, and we need them to function properly, so I'm concerned about what that commission will do. So, yeah,
So we can
Yeah.
maybe come up with I don't know if it's too early to say something of like what a potential charge would be, as well as steps to get this on the warrant for town meeting and bring that back to the board.
does the statute specifically discuss what the committee's responsibilities are?
It does.
I'll have to look that up, okay.
And I just have a quick question. I see the draft warrant article for this and for the, and I don't need an answer tonight. Would the warrant article need to specify, it has not fewer than 5 and not more than 13 members, and I like keeping that flexibility in a warrant article and then through the charges and everything being able to adjust and not saying that we can only have 5, because if town grows and there's more
If you have
ability.
7 people that come out and wanna participate, we don't wanna tell anybody no.
Right, especially if it's a diversity, looking at the accessibility piece, and so I like having that, but I think that would, come out through the charge, right, where we would seat the number, cause we would need to seat a number for the quorum, or set a number for the quorum purposes. Okay, thank
So
you.
that doesn't have to be part of the warrant?
The article I think can stay
Or do
5
you-
to 13.
It can stay flexible so that we can make adjustments as necessary. Alright, so we'll get some more details and info and we'll bring that back around as well.
Thank you.
Next up, annual town report. So this is underway for FY 2025. So we need to open the nomination period for the dedication and in memoriam pages. Pretty self-explanatory there. Anybody have questions or concerns?
Just to reiterate that this is for fiscal year 25, so those dates are
July
July
1,
1st.
2024 to June 30, 2025.
yeah, and if we can just, in any communication that goes out, put those specific dates, because I know we always
Yeah,
get
that's on the form. I
Okay.
included it on the form because I know it's so confusing when we're doing like FY 27 budget, FY 25,
Yes.
yeah, it's
yeah, and then like
confusing.
Moses Howe is and
Yes.
all of that, and so I just, for all the forms, but also on the website, and even for our own, and if the office receives anything and you happen to catch that it's out of date, just kind of, cause I think we've sometimes,
Yeah, that's definitely how we did, we've kind of said save it for next year, as
Yeah.
sad as that sound, you know,
so,
but yeah.
yeah, that was just my only
Sure.
Yeah.
clarification on the dates. So I would move to open the nomination period for the dedication and in memoriam pages for the fiscal year 25 annual town report to close on March 2nd, 2026.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? Alright, Alex,
Vote aye.
Second I.
That's
Ledger I. Thank you. And last but not least, we have a draft annual town meeting calendar before us for consideration. As it's noted in our memo, we are trying to get this approved a little bit earlier, just again to have these dates set and also allowing for some additional time to ensure legal review is done on all the warrant articles, so that is done by the time we have our meeting to place the articles on the warrant and talk about our recommendations, so we won't run into those situations where, if necessary, public hearings haven't happened or legal review hasn't been done on the articles, etc. So just giving us a little bit more room for that. Any questions on the calendar that's in our packets or concerns? So we would be looking at our, it is our next meeting, March 2nd, to open the warrant. Bring in just wanted to get it out there, so, yeah, I can't believe it's here already.
And I just ask that everything be communicated to all the boards and commissions and the department heads and everything. I mean, obviously through the budget process, we're working with the department heads and everything, but
So that they know when the
Yes.
warrant is open.
open and
When it
closed.
closes. Yeah.
Thank you.
No concern, I'll entertain a motion to approve the annual town meeting calendar as proposed.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Alright, roll call, Alex.
Vote aye.
Second, I.
Women,
That's an aye.
Ledger, aye. Are there any future agenda requests?
Yes. I'd like to revisit Earth Day. I got the information on there, but there were no financials there. It was only numbers about how many people visited. When we talked about getting information from the,
Is-
I'd like to see if we can get more information from that.
Did you send that out?
I did, I thought there were 2 attachments.
They were all just about the town. They, in other words, how many people visited. There was no financials there whatsoever. And that's what I was looking for, were the financials.
Okay, I'll see if those are available.
Okay.
Where it's not a town department, I don't know what they have available for,
I mean, if they're a 501(c), they have to file every year
Yeah.
a tax return.
I just don't know, so I will ask.
Yeah, I mean, I know they have it. They may not wanna give it to us, but I know they have
Alright, so we'll see what we can find out.
Yep.
it. Okay. So maybe that
Is there-
doesn't need to be agenda, but yeah, I'd like that.
Okay, so just some clarification on information you'd
Yeah.
like. Okay, and then once we have that, or if we feel like we need more discussion, you can let me know if we want something for the
Yeah.
agenda.
And I think, you know, I know somebody brought it up earlier, but I'd like to know what's going on with the town planner, what we're doing with him. And the reason is,
Him?
I'd like to know is because one of the issues we have, and we're in land court now, being sued, is that a town planner kinda helps us stay out of those mugs and mires. So I'd like to know what the status is on where we stand on the
If
town
I
planner.
may, we have one of those departments on our schedule for Thursday, right? We can
we
we
do?
can provide,
Yeah,
Planning board?
you have
Planning board,
boards and
commissions.
committees on your Thursday agenda, so we can definitely,
Planning
I'm-
board is not specific.
I-
Oh, no, it is. Planning.
yeah, there.
Is the planning board on there?
Yeah, number 1 is planning, community development and conservation.
So
Okay.
I think for Thursday, we can touch on,
Okay.
I know Heather has conveyed kind of the plan and what's going on, but we can just make sure that everybody's hopefully on the same page with regards to that, during those discussions on, because it is
it's the number one
postpone
question.
it is there, related to budget considerations, so we can touch base on that on Thursday.
Okay. And that will get into what's going forward, yes or no, on the planner? We'll talk about that, not just finances. Where do we stand? Are we moving forward or looking for somebody or not looking? That's
I
kind of
think,
what,
again,
Yeah,
because it's,
I-
it's
I think we
related
can-
to the budget, so we can provide the
okay,
updates on the plan.
okay,
I can
Feeling-
certainly speak to
feeling.
that.
okay.
Alright, any other future agenda items, requests? Okay, upcoming board meetings, we have this coming Thursday is another budget hearing. March 2nd is our next regular board meeting. And then March 12th and March 19th, I believe, are to round out the budget hearings. With this, are both the schools on the same night on the 19th?
No, Bay Path is
Is the
the
12th,
12th. Yep,
okay.
and Wachusett's the 19th.
Okay, so the 12th, those are exclusively school budget evenings, and those should round out the last of the budget hearings before the continued discussion after that. Is there anything else to come before the board this evening? Not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, Alex
Vote aye.
Second, I.
Women.
That's an aye.
and Ledger, aye. All right, we are adjourned. It is 8:21.